Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Decisions Lunch and Learn. Man, say that 10 times fast. I am your host, Jared Rodriguez. I'm on the Hey, I should be good now. Yeah. So I got mic issues. So if you guys can't hear me or if I like cut out randomly, just type in the chat and say, yo, man, your mic cut out. And then I'll know because I have to do this weird unplug and replug thing. So gotta love Windows 11. Anywho, before I was rudely interrupted by technology, my name is Jared. I'm on the training team, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have and demonstrate them if I can, or if they're more involved, I'll direct you to submit a support ticket. But the good news is we do have a pre-submitted question. So I'm going to go ahead and read that pre-submitted question and answer it to the best of my ability. All right, so we got a question that says, hey, I have a workflow that uploads an Excel file and all the data from Excel gets populated on the form. I was wondering if there's any way we can manually add information into the fields, and then the next time when I search for that information, it saves that to Excel. And the good news is that yes, there is a way that you can do that. I'm actually going to promote Will Clemens. I'm going to promote you as a panelist so that you can be able to talk. So you're going to be my mic check guy. So if I ever have any issues or weird things happen with the mic, just let me know. All right. So to that particular question on regard to, yes, there is a way that you can do that. So one of the ways, if you have an Excel file that you need to manipulate, there is a specific form control that allows you to edit that information. You can also do this many ways where you can do it via data repeaters, and then you can save it back to the file if you want, or there's another easier way, or not really easier way, but it's another way where you can utilize how we create a form to allow us to edit it. So what we do here is, I'm just going to use this form one since I have it. And we have a specific form control called CSV editor. And what the CSV editor does, it allows us to edit any file, or not any file, but file that has rows associated with it. And you can inline edit that particular value. It has a couple of options here. So one, you have the header where you can say the first row is header, which is most likely the case if you're dealing with spreadsheets. It is the header. And then you can also limit the amount of rows in the page as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create something and kind of show you how this works. And you can see if this will help your use case. So this is going to be my CSV input file, so fun stuff. I'm going to grab a button because every form we have has got to have a button. Boom, boom, boom. I'll make this the whole thing just so we can see it. And I'm going to check the box, which is the first row is header because it typically is. Columns expected, that's just the validation. I'm going to leave that at 0. That does not need to be configured. I'm going to close and save this, and I'm going to put this in a flow. So let's call this the test CSV editor flow. And then I'm going to drag over my show form right here. I'm going to pick create form, recent, form 1, put that in here. And notice it takes in the input of file data. So this is where it's very helpful, is you can say, hey, I want to put in some type of file in here and pass it into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag, and I'm going to set up input data. I'm going to say this is my file. And we're going to select file data, all that fun stuff. Then I'm going to select from flow. I'm going to grab my file so that it takes in this input and passes into there. You don't have to do it this way, right? You can create, like, let's say you're storing that Excel file on a Azure database or somewhere else, or a file storage on a network shared drive. You can fetch that file and then put it in here. That also is a way you can put files into forms. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to debug this. And I got a file that I'm going to use to demonstrate this. Let me move the Zoom chat to my other screen, so in case you guys have comments or questions. I'm going to look at the test case. Make sure that I'm good. Let's see. All right, perfect. And here, and I'm going to drag this file over. If I can find the file test case, there we go, found it. Drag the file here, start debug, and then you're going to see it will display that data. Now what I can do is I can add data, I can edit the data. So instead of stormy, I can say it's windy, right? And I can edit that stuff. And then when I submit it, that data will change and will be transformed by that. So that's a way you can accomplish that type of data manipulation through that if you want to utilize the CSV editor. So I'm going to choose that file again just to illustrate it. So I'm going to grab the file, drag it over, start the debug. It's going to transform this. I can edit this or do whatever I want with it. Add some data here. I can also add some rows if I want to add another row, right? So I can just add an information here. I can also move rows up or down, or I can download it if I want. That's the download. I can refresh this. I can move the rows down or up, orient it the way that I want. So it's a pretty cool step. And then I can submit it and goes through. All right, Manal. I hope that answered your question. I allowed you to come off mute. Let me know if you have any clarifications you want to add.
Just a quick question. So what I am doing, I have an Excel and I created the whole data structure. So what my business users wanted, rather than seeing the whole, Excel in the form, they wanted is you upload the data, Excel into the data structure. So I created all the fields from the Excel, and then I just ran this flow, which allows users to upload the Excel, and then all those fields can be searchable on the form. I think you were the one who kind of showed that last time in the Lunch and Learn, and then they can for example, it's like vehicle number. They should be able to search vehicle number and then all the description, their model, and then the vehicle ID populates. That's where I was thinking, if we, for example, if I add another data and I just wanted to add it after that step into that Excel. So whenever I come next time to the same form and I search the same vehicle number that I added last time, would that be possible? I know it's so confusing to say. Like, I don't know how to explain it unless I show it to you, or does that make sense? Or no? Are you still there, Jared? Sorry, I can't hear you at all.
Can't hear me?
I can hear
Testing.
you now.
Perfect. Sorry. Yeah, so in that situation, it sounds like if you already save it to the database, it's already going to have that new data already stored. Right? So if I say, right, Toyota Corolla 06 is a new item and I save that to the database, the next time you fetch all that data, it's going to have that new record.
But like, for example, right now what it is doing, I don't know if I can, I don't think I can share my screen, but like I add the data into it. So for example, I search this in my Excel, there's 2 vehicle numbers, 1, 2, 3, and then the other one is 4, 5, 6. I go to my form, I put it in 1, 2, 3, it searches it, and then it populates all the information. But for example, if I want to add 3, 4, 5 record from the form, I can, is it any way I can like manually edit and then it adds to that same database? So next time when I come back to the same form, in the same place where I was typing the vehicle number, I can put 3, 4, 5, and then it should populate
so
those
you're trying
fields.
To update something.
Yes, but it's coming all from Excel.
Yeah, so absolutely. So let's say I had a data. So since you're using a database structure or whatever user-defined type you're using, the step that you'll want to use, I don't have any database structures, I don't think, on this one. Do I not? I thought I did. % sure. You'll have, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can have a selective update step that says, hey, let's say, imagine this was vehicle numbers, that I can say, hey, I want to update this specific, person or this specific property. So anytime that it comes in, to the step and a user edits it, and you pass in that like composite type into this step, then it will save any new information on that. So if you do have, like, you want to change the ID from 123 to 345, and you have the selective update step or any edit step from your database for your database structure, then next time the user calls that, they'll see that updated data.
Okay, gotcha. Even though I have like, so what I did, there's one place where they can search the vehicle number. For example, whatever is already added in the Excel, like 123 and 345 is already in the Excel, but I want to edit new vehicle. So I also added like 6 fields. If you want to add manually, select that, and then they manually add like Camry, and then they put the data. So after that, I should have the selective update.
Yeah, so that one sounds like correct. And that one, in that specific circumstance, sounds like you're allowing people to edit or create multiple records. And in that case, I'm assuming you're kind of outputting from a data repeater or some type of like, or Excel that gives you some type of row.
They should be only add one. So if they want, they
just add
can
one.
just add one vehicle number. Yes.
Okay.
If they can't find the vehicle from the Excel, like by doing a search, they should be able to add a new one by just manually typing in. But they should be only able to type in one. It's just like 6 text boxes.
Okay, yeah. Then all you need is, if you want to either, if you can't find the data and you want to create it, you just go to find the create step for your database structure. So I'll just use the case entity as an example. It's the same for a database structure, and they can just create that, and then when they complete that form, it will hit like this create step, and then it'll write that new record to the database. And then next time they want to search for that new record, it will appear for any next time user.
Oh, okay. So I don't need the selective update anymore. I just need the create.
Yeah, that's for new records. So there's 2 situations here. There's one that's for creating and one that's for updating. If you want them to be able to update, so let's say, hey, the model for Toyota Corolla is not 06, it's 07, then you can also create a process where the user can then update a value. And then that's what the selective update does. It merely says, oh, there's already an existing record, let's update it. The create step says there's no record, we got to write a new one. And so that's why I was demonstrating the selective update step, because it sounded like you just wanted to change one field of an existing record. But then when I accurately more understood your situation, it sounds like you would have to use the create step to create new records.
And then in order for me to save it into that Excel or that data structure in the item to create, would I just choose, where would I choose that data structure that I want? Hey, save it in there.
Yeah,
because so I'm already getting it. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. This is type specific. So what you would do is, anytime you create a database structure or any data, or using any saved data structure and decisions, if you go to user defined type and you drill down for your data type, this create step is just for that type. So since my example is person, you see that it says item to create person. Here's would say item to create car or vehicle, right? Or whatever you've named it.
Gotcha. And then I would just map them from those text fields that I added on those on the first form.
Exactly. So you can either output the entire composite type correctly, or that's when you use build data, and then you find the fields you define, and then you pass those in via the form.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So if I do build data, so I should be able to like it says select from flow and then map each field into it.
Exactly, because the thing you have to determine is, are you like, is your form outputting the entire composite type, that we have, or is it just outputting the individual values? So in this case, let's say I have person, right? And then this is my person object, right? So I'm creating that, and I think this is the right one. We'll find out. And so now I've created that. So now, since I have an object that outputs itself as entire person, I can actually, all I have to do is select from flow and grab my person data type. So see how I didn't need to use that. But your form may only output like vehicle make, right? Vehicle model, vehicle, right? All individual properties. And in that case, if you have individual properties of a composite type, that's when you use build data. And then you can say, okay, I can map the date of birth to, select from flow right here. I'm going to drill down into my person object, and I'm going to grab the date of birth of the person object, right? And so it drills down into that specific composite type.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm doing the whole thing. I just want everything to be updated as soon as, 6 fields. And then the folder ID, would that be just like when you go to your dashboard and then you right click and then gives you the folder ID, or would it be some specific folder ID that we need?
So this is just for the entities. Are you using, do you know what type of data structure you're using? Is it a database or is it entity or?
Database.
Then you won't have a folder ID option.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so yours will just be item to create. I'm trying to think if I have, let's see. Yeah, basically the database structure, since it's not stored in decisions, you don't need a folder ID because that's what the folder ID is for entities. So all you'll see is item to create. And if you, so I just want to make sure this part is clear. So like, let's say, for example, let's say I have here, right, first name, we'll call this first name. I know I misspelled it. And then last name, right? And then I have date picker for date of birth, right? I'm saving the whole thing, right? I know I want the whole thing, but the thing is, don't call this DOB, but the thing is my form does not know it's outputting a composite type, right? So see how I have DOB first name. So I can't just select from flow and grab DOB or last name, right? Because it's not expecting that. So in this circumstance, that's where I'd have to build data. And then I can go, okay, let me select from flow first name. Okay, let me select from flow last name, right? Because the form is outputting the individual properties of it, not the entire thing. So even though you may need to save the entire thing, the way you do it may be influenced how your form is set up. I don't know if that made sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I can see it now. It does say
Okay.
create, and then I have to do the build data in order to get the whole thing. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
good.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
my pleasure. Anytime. All right. Any other questions? So let me check the chat. All right. All right. If you guys don't have any questions, well, I have a really cool document I want to show you guys that I actually learned today that will be helpful. I think it's just a really cool one. If you ever need to determine how to set up certain things in your reports, this document is really helpful. So in our decisions documentation, this is like a pro tip. If you ever want to be able to look at what's the updated or the new features, documents that have been updated in our doc site, you can just type updated in the search box here, or new if you want to see what's the latest and greatest. So right, if you want to know, hey, we got report group action flows, you can left click on this and you can read the report group action flows because our documentation team does a great job of working on updating these documents. But the one that I really want to show you guys, I think is really helpful, that really demonstrates the entire report designer or chart capabilities. And it should be in, if I go all the way to reports, configuration rules, reports, adding charts to a report. So in decisions, there's two ways to add a chart. You can create a chart in a report, or you can create a chart via the page designer. And the reason why I like this one particularly is because it shows you all the available charts and decisions and how they're set up. So we have this cool analysis one, we have bars, which we've had for a while, but we also have the win-loss bars. You can use a mix bar, and we have these win-loss and stack bars that you can utilize within the report designer. And in order to do that, you have to have a multiple series of items. So let me see if I can do this real quick. I think I can figure this out. I was just shown this morning, so I should be able to replicate this. And again, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to voice them here as I just demonstrate this cool document that I think is fascinating. So this is gonna be charts. I'm gonna say stacked chart on a report. All right, and so I'm just going to use the account data source as a goofy one. Yeah, go right ahead. You can still come off mute.
I am so sorry, Jade.
You're fine.
Just really quick question. So I have an email step where I'm just trying to attach like 4 documents. It's just a quick email step. But whenever I do like build array and then I do constant, I just get like object null error. And they're all just a regular Word documents. Do you know if there's any easier way to attach Word documents to an email? Because whenever I do it, it just gives me an object null error. I'm not sure if this is a decisions thing or is it that it doesn't like.
I don't know.
or
Let's find out.
document?
So I'm gonna do it on the screen. Let me know if this is how you got it. So
Yes.
send email,
Mhm.
put it here. I'll go from Jared@decisions.com to Jared. That's what we'll do. Jared. And so then we got the attachments right here, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so then you're building array. Are you
And
setting
then
these to constant?
yes, because there's like those files will never change. I'm just trying to attach them to the email.
Okay, so let's see. How many you got? Is just
4.
4? Okay, I'm gonna just do
Yes.
2.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna use Word documents. Let's see what I can find. Word. All right, so I'm gonna do an Excel. Boom, we got an Excel. And then we have, I'll move that there. And then I'm gonna grab a Word document. Oops. Word. Let's see. What's a good one? Document routing work queue. There you go. Let's use this one. So I got a Word document. All right. Let's see. This should, it's still, what's the error? Subject. Oh, okay. Subject and body be hello and hello. All right, let's test it out. Let's see if it runs. I know I'm not using an actual SMTP server because I'm just on my local. Because if you have a constant, I don't think that is a problem. It shouldn't have an issue.
Do you know which like on the update you are? Because we're on 8.2 and it just doesn't take it. Like I keep trying to put it in random constant documents and it just doesn't. It just says object null error. And then I have to like close the flow completely and come back again. Oh, you're on 8.12.
Yeah, I'm up on 12.1. I'm on, I think, the latest version of it. Let's see, let's go back here.
Because
Come
I'm on
on,
8.
don't take too long.
Oh,
Go
sorry, I'm
ahead.
on 8.9. Do you know if there's any other way you can do it? Because I even try to create the data and then in create data, I edit the file and then try to select from flow in there and it still doesn't take it.
Do you do the file name or do you pass in the contents of the file?
Contents of the file.
Do you give it a name?
I usually just do create data. I put like file upload 1 and then I upload the file. And then on the output, I usually put like, let's leave it. And then I put it into the email step as build array. It's
Build
just not
array.
taking any of the Word documents, which is really, really weird.
Does it do, so wait, does it do any documents?
It doesn't do any of them.
So, but like, any other file types like PDFs, XLs, CSVs? What about those? Do those work?
Trying. No, it doesn't. It just says object null error. So I was wondering if something is with 8.9.
I mean,
or
that could be like, because I got test case CSV and I got my document writing work queue and that went just fine. But I would actually submit a support ticket just to verify. I honestly don't think so. You might just need, maybe someone on support just to get on a call and like troubleshoot. Maybe there's something that like in the process, it's clearing out that variable or value or something. But yeah, because it should just work like this where it shows you the attachments and then, whatever it is.
Okay, gotcha. I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you so much again. Sorry about that, interrupting you.
Oh, you're fine. This is what it's here for.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Let's see, I got another question. How to compare two list objects using statement rules. Okay, can you elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, hi. Actually, the issue is that what I'm trying to do is, let's say I have two different tables, which I'm using fetch entities to get the data of two tables, and then these tables are kind of a list object, and I want to compare the data of one table to the data of another table using like a for loop, using row by row. So this is what I want to do. Yeah. So I saw like we can use list containers something, but I don't know, like I'm not able to actually figure out exactly how this can be achieved.
So you're trying to compare, so you have two tables that I guess are exactly identical and you're trying to see what the values match.
Yep.
Okay. Because then you would, because then what you can do is if you want to use a statement rule, like for example, our Sprint 2 project illustrates this pretty well. Let me see if I can open it real quick just to give you, show you the mock rule we've created. Don't you love logins? I approve. All right, cool. I'm in the matrix. All right, so now if I go into the, there we go. Let's go to example builds. Let's go to, right, it all depends on the table. So it depends on how large the table is. There's a couple of considerations here. How large the table is, how much data you're comparing. Because then you have different paths that you can utilize for comparison. So this one, it's a pretty large table, but we're only comparing 5 things from the different tables. So we have this address coming from a file, and we have address master data coming from an external database integration. And what we do here is we say, hey, let's look at the property 1 and see if it equals, property 2. Let's see if, so we have a bunch of lots of and statements where you can say, hey, I want this to equal this and equal this and equal this and equal this and equal this, right? And so we'll check all of them. And if they all don't equal, then it will return false. If they all equal, then it will return true. So that's one way you can do it. You can create your own custom rule and compare both of those. You can do the way that you suggested, where you just say, hey, I'm going to for each through each property and check that value. The only problem with that way is that one has, right, if you're doing that for 1 million records, that's going to take forever. And you're going to experience significant performance degradation. So for very large comparisons, if you're doing ones that are going to be evaluating lots of data, then what you're going to want to do is you will have to utilize a step that we like to call the run flow for list step. And what that allows you to do is you basically create a flow for each list item. And so you have to picture this step kind of has an imaginary for loop inside of it. That's the thing you want to like conceptualize. And it takes in a list of whatever that item is. So for example, it's taking here for our project, a list of address data. And then when I edit this flow, you'll see that my input is right here. My input is the start step data. And this input is just that one instance of that address data. So now what I can do is I can do an intense comparison of that one record running that rule that I just showed you in a more efficient manner. And so how is it efficient? The reason why it can be is because I can set this step to run asynchronously, and I can still have it wait on other pieces of data. So it creates different queues for the different records. So you're not running an entire process synchronously. So for large data sets comparisons, we would utilize this type of method for it, instead of just using the, pass in a list for each and then you statement rule true back to the for each loop and so on and so forth. So that would be the way you can handle that. Did that answer your question?
Actually, can you just go back to the previous example that you shared where you were comparing the addresses? So
Yeah,
just
the
want
rules.
to, yeah, the rules. So
Mhm.
in this one, the data type is like your address is like basically a string, and address master data, is it a list?
Is it a list? This is going just single values right now.
Okay,
So this is
let's
one
say,
address compared to one record in the external database.
so if let's say we have 2 list kind of objects, how can those be compared?
Yeah, so the run flow for list step is how you do that. So going back to that flow I showed you, right? This it's kind of a little hard to grasp, but remember, this is taking in a list, right? List of address data. So I'm taking it in the list. But when I'm inside of this step, you have to think from the single value context. So now if I ran this, what would happen is you have to imagine this is what it's going to do when it goes through one process. It's going to format it a certain way, and then it's going to run it through the comparison rule, which resides in the subflow. So now what happens is when I debug this, you're going to see this run for several different items. So I guess let me debug this real quick to kind of show you what happens. But you'll see that this thing's going to run as a loop and compare each list object for each list object according to each other list object that lives inside of that database that I was talking about.
See.
Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you see it to the left right here in the execution. It's going through this, right, 13 times, 20 times, and it's saying, hey, every record in that file that I just, that I just uploaded, you can get its corresponding record in a database and compare those two values. And you can see it going up. That's doing this for like 100, 111 times. So it's taking two list sources and going through and running them through that rule. So that's why you don't need to think of everything as like, I got to handle the list in this context. You could think, hey, I can create a rule to handle one comparison. And then now I just need to use the run flow for list step to use a scalable process to evaluate them more efficiently so that when I run like 50,000 records into it, it won't be, it would be performant.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. True. I think one suggestion in the chat was you can use hashes as well, but then I don't know if you know specifically what change if you just use a hash. So that is an idea, but it wouldn't be as detailed of what the differences are. Alrighty. Any other questions? Great questions, guys. I'm glad I got a lot of questions today because I'm afraid I scare people because it's like I get one question and then it's just we're chilling. So it's great. So keep it coming. Oh yes, but let me go back to what I was displaying here earlier about this the report charts because I think I can figure it out. Where did I put it? I don't know where I put it at. I lost it. Don't save. Report. Stack chart. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. And I'm going to utilize just the account data source for it. So let's see, I'm going to do created by, created on, and then we'll do the email address. So we'll get to know specifically what was done here. And so, okay, I got all of these accounts and I have a couple accounts that are created by the admin user. So I'm going to group it by this. I should have like, okay, I have at least two. Okay, cool. So then I can add a stack chart. Stack bars. Count created by. All right. And then I'm going to say, this is going to be count created by chart. Click OK. And then I can do a stacked bar but first, I may need your help, Will. But first, I got to add a series. Can I grab another to go to data? Results. I think it's adding a subtotal. Let's say I want the count of email addresses. Well, I don't think it'll give me the whole set. I want to get the whole set of it somehow. All right, so I'm going to use the email created by count of created. Well, created on date. Nope. What would be a good one? I already grouped it by that, so we should get the count there. So that shouldn't be an issue. So let's do the average. Let's do the average of created on. Let's see, not account. Let's do average. What things can I do an average on? No, that's not gonna be helpful. Let's do created on date. Haha, we'll try that one. So I have another series, count of created on date. We're definitely gonna see how this works. And then what I can do is I can add another series, and then boom, I have the amounts that are created by the admin user in the system, and then I also have the count of how many different dates were created by them. So you can create a stack chart by adding the series, and you'll probably want to do it by some way that's more like that slices your data in a better way where that information can make more sense. And then you can also edit the colors to it. So let's say if I want series 1, I'm going to say green. Let's see what it changed. So it changes the first part to green because that's the first series. So if I want that to be, so I can see that, let's make it a little lighter. Right? I was like, okay, I can see that. And then if I want series 2 to be just kind of like a, I don't know, let's do a little orange comparison right here. And so I can have it change the colors and look like that. So that's a really cool thing. I've never figured out how to make stack chart in all the years I've been working here, but now that the documentation team has created a great document called, and I'll actually put this in the chat for everyone. So if you want to read it and enjoy it, it's really cool, really helpful. It's a really good document. All right. That's my doc of the day, I should say. The doc of the lunch of the doc. No, that made no sense. The lunch doc. Nope. There was a cool name that I had for it, and now it just left me. It was supposed to be like the doc of the day. Yeah, we can. Yeah, there we go. No. Anywho. So yeah, I'll probably be adding some type of segment. I think it'd be really cool. I'll add some type of segments. Be like, all right, this is doc of the day if there's no questions or something like that. Let's see what else. I think there was another cool document that I really thought was fascinating. That was super helpful. Got that one there. Oh, another thing, this would be a cool idea. I'm going to talk a little bit about calculated columns. So in the report designer, I hope you guys have seen, which you may have or you may not, regardless of whether you have or you haven't. It's still a good thing to know, is we have these things in decisions called calculated columns. And calculated columns are pretty helpful if you want to combine text of a field, maybe add some fields. Maybe you want to get the days between, and you can utilize different get the days difference between certain date members of your data structure. And they're really cool and they're really helpful. I know I've used them a lot, but there's a thing you need to be aware of. Anytime you use a calculated column, it's a spectrum on the level of performance hit that you may potentially experience. That's the key. You may potentially experience. So for example, if I use a flow inline field, right, and this is where I get to create a flow, and every time that this report runs, it will run a flow for each row. This one is you have to be very, 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 very careful about using this, because if you do use this flow inline field calculated column to do some type of calculation or flow to run to get you a value you want to display, if you're going to have a low amount of records, like maybe a couple hundred, you'll be fine. But if you're going to have like users viewing hundreds of thousands of records, is when I have to, hey, I think we're good. Am I back? Type in chat, type an emoji in the chat. Sweet, thank you so much for that. Man, it's always when I'm trying to say, like, impart knowledge. My mic knows, turn off now. Anyway, flow inline fields, you have to be very, very, very careful, because if you have records that are over like thousands upon hundreds of thousands and millions, you will experience a performance degradation. So our recommendation is there's very limited use cases where you want to use flow inline field because of that difficulty. There are some other ones that don't cause that much performance hits, like the dividing fields, getting date age, right? Because those are simple kind of formatting things you can switch. But you have to be very careful though, because even those things will have a minor performance hit, but you won't experience it, even when you get to large data sets, because it's not as involved as utilizing a flow inline field. So that's the thing you'll have to just be aware of. You can have open URL fields, which is really nice. There's a run flow inline field, which I think allows you to display like a little flow. No, what did you do that for? Right, where you can say, hey, I want to pick a flow to run, and a user manually runs this. This is better than the flow inline field, because the flow inline field will automatically run that flow for as soon as that record is shown here. But you can utilize the run flow that just gives a user like, hey, I want to display further details on something, or hey, I want to do something and I want to give the user some type of action in a report row to do, right? You could want that. It's a nice capability to use, and it's not as performance intense because it only runs when a user clicks. The flow only runs when the user clicks on it, not when the row just kind of appears. So that's a kind of helpful thing to use from the calculated columns. But anytime you use a calculated column, always think, let me use them sparingly because they can have a performance set later on in the process. All right, I'll save this report because I'm proud of it. It looks cool, even though it just doesn't do anything helpful, but it looks cool. All right. Any other comments or questions? Things I can demonstrate? What was your question? Add files to a Docker containerized instance running as serverless in AWS. So it cannot SSH into it and make sure the file is persistent. I don't know because I'm not an expert in those things. I would wonder, maybe there might be some documentation on Docker, but I don't have a lot of, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with AWS and Docker. All right. So I don't see any questions. I'll give you guys about 5 more minutes. And if there's no questions, I'll end it so we can get the recording, and I'll make sure that we get this posted on our YouTube channel so you guys can review it. So about 5 more minutes. If there's no questions, we will end the call. All righty. No questions. I will conclude this lunch and learn. Thank you so much for attending. Tomorrow, Ethan Price on our pre-sales engineering team, he'll be able to answer your questions tomorrow. And it will be at the same time at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look forward to that tomorrow. And I'll see you guys next time.